Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our Property 50-Day Challenge. We are here with Jarrad today. We are sort of running different sessions with Jarrad and Tabaleng, Matt L at the moment because they are both so very busy, gigs here and there and everywhere. So today we only have Jarrad in the room, and we're going to be talking to him about a number of things, but most especially where he's at with his challenge at the moment in the 50-day property challenge. So we are now in week 7 already. Wow, the time has flown, Jarrad.
Definitely. Listen, it's been quite a journey and it feels like it's happening so fast, but keeping in mind 50-day challenge, so it will feel like it's speeding through. And as mentioned before, we're still learning so much, but it's been exciting to actually see myself entering the space and being able to actually make it work. As you know, Nigel, we rang the virtual bell for me with the side, and I'm very excited to say that pretty soon I'm entering the transfer process, which through previous conversations I'm sort of familiar with, but of course I'll be tapping into all of you just to guide me a bit further. So that's starting off. And at the same time, you also did tell me that I have to find another property. And that it was a property I didn't think I would be interested in. It is slightly out of my price range. Sitting at 1.4 mil, 1.399. And it's a heritage property. There's a lot of history attached to it. It's a 4-bedroom. It's got big grounds of about almost 3,000 square meters. So it's got the right, I think I'm really interested in creating Airbnb opportunities, especially as tourism opens up. And I'm really interested in the property, but like I've mentioned to you, it's out of that price range, that easy price range where you can just grab something quickly. So I needed to ask you and your team to help me figure out how to acquire the funds. I know that as we've journeyed, we've spoken about speaking to the banks or getting your funds from other people, using other people's money, which always sounds like the favorite to me. And so I just need to learn a bit more about that. But I'm excited that I'm on this journey, and I really want to capitalize on all this information that I have and build the portfolio over a period of time. But I'm reaching the goal. I'm just happy that I got started with all of you guys. So
All right,
looking good.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. So I mean, I'm very glad that we got in the first half of the program, you got to a point where you've already now put in your offer to purchase. The cash is available between yourself, your wife, and a couple of other friends, which in effect is one of the ways to raise capital, and using other people's money is getting friends and family involved. So that's just one of the ways that you can raise money for a project like this. And I'm very glad that you are now in that transfer process. Later on this week, or today maybe even, we'll have a chat with Maya Deval where we'll talk about the transfer process and how that works, and so that you can also be enlightened in terms of the entire process. Very often, we as buyers and sellers even don't see what happens in the back end with the attorneys and the title deeds, the deeds office, all of that kind of thing. So I want to just showcase that to you and to the public, so that you guys also know what's going on in the back end while you sit and wait and twiddling your thumbs waiting for your transfer to happen. So I'm very, very chuffed that we are almost there. And I think probably based on the timing, we'll probably this week already you will take transfer. And yeah, so it sounds like we are there. We're almost there.
Woo! Which almost felt impossible in the beginning of all of this. At least for everybody watching on this journey with us, you can see that it is possible. It's just about having enough knowledge and knowing exactly the kind of portfolio that you want to build. And while the property game is where it's at, it's about diving in now. Because as things open up, I can physically see prices changing. Properties that maybe dropped in price during the pandemic have now started sort of balancing out to where they were before. So now's the time.
It's quite amazing to see that in your limited knowledge of the property sector, the kinds of stuff you're talking about, the fact that the market is leveling out, and you clearly have done a lot of research in terms of the markets and so on.
I look on the app, so I am watching it all the time. I bookmark some properties so you can see the changing. And when engaging with the agents that are representing the properties, they themselves will give you transparency on
Yes.
this, what the value is. It dropped to X amount, and there are forums, as you've mentioned before, where you can check what the property, what the rate it is going at, if it
Yeah.
dropped, if it, what the properties around that specific property are sold for, just to give you insight into maybe what you're getting yourself into, and if it's a good area to invest in. You know, is it dropping? Is it increasing? Is it just due to the pandemic, or is the area becoming a sought after area, or is there a decline of people moving out? And these are all very important things that I've seen through listening to all of you and through all the many features within the EDPF Academy's website that you can tap into to make sure that you're making informed and insightful decisions. So I'm grateful. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying all of these things, because a few weeks ago I was as green as an avocado, you know, and now we're here talking about property, and it's quite cool to see that in a matter of weeks you can be part of the conversation, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And even green avocados, when you cut them open, you leave them a little bit, they become brown. So you are now clearly seasoned after a couple of weeks of being on this program, and we hope that, you know, through the 3 years that you are still going to be with us, that you will learn so much more, and that you'll be able to grow your portfolio to a substantial size before you leave this program in 2024, at the end of 2024. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so you asked me a question in terms of capital and how you now start to expand your portfolio. So your situation is that you don't earn a fixed income. Correct. Which makes it very difficult, actually. And people might think, oh, no, he's a celebrity, he's got lots of money. That's far from the truth. Yeah. So that's the reason, one of the reasons you came to us is to say, I'd like to start my property portfolio, but because I don't have a fixed income, the banks are not inclined to necessarily look at me as a potential person to invest into from a property investment perspective. So how do I then, as somebody who doesn't have that fixed income, how do I now find the money if I can't raise the money through the bank? So let's have a quick dive into that. We don't have to do a deep dive today, but for anybody who wants to do a deep dive, we've got some videos, free videos on our website, www.edpfpropertyacademy.com. They can go to the website for the deep dive, but let's just talk about some of the typical ways that you can raise money for a property investment opportunity. Okay, so you can chill a little bit. Let me do some talking, and then we'll have a chat again after I'm done. So obviously the first way to raise capital is the bank. So if you have a steady income, whether that is because you've got a job, or because you've got a contract with an organization, or if you just have, like you have gigs all the time and you've got steady income then flowing through your accounts every single month, what the bank will then do is they will look at your lowest and your highest, and then for the last 6 months, and then they will do sort of an average of what your salary has or your income has been for those few months. And then they could even use that as your repayment ability. What they will then also do is to, if you have now, after, like with Antabaleng, for example, Matt Alshi has already purchased 2 properties. And we had a conversation with ABSA last week where they are busy now working with her to say, because you bought 2 properties already, we can help you in your 3rd property and beyond to use what they call their future rental income product. So even if you don't have a steady income, or if you don't have a salary, the bank could still help you with different products that they have. But if the bank cannot help you, then what we then do, like you did with your first property that you've now purchased and you're just waiting for transfer, basically, you first thing you do is go to friends and family. I last week and this week, in fact, 2 weeks in a row now, I have done an exercise with the students in our program where I've asked them to literally just take their phone. I've got a very funky cover. It's all green, light green and everything. Take their phone and take the top 10 names where they think that those people possibly have money to spend and want to invest into something, but don't have the time and don't have the energy or the wherewithal to understand where to invest. But they have the money. And the exercise was quite telling, because what then happened in the first week that we did this exercise 2 weeks ago, a group of second years in the program, they started phoning. I gave them 45 minutes on a Saturday to phone about 5 or 10 people. And within 45 minutes, almost every single one of them came back with a positive answer of almost everybody they phoned to say, yes, I can invest in something like this. If you take the lead, you find the deals for us, we will co-invest with you. And the minimum that any one of those students was able to raise was 750,000 Rand. And there were some that was able to raise a lot more in 45 minutes on a Saturday. So imagine how much, if you have all this time with all your contacts and your phone book, and you start making those phone calls to say you in this EDPF program, you want to raise capital for your projects. And you've now got this new project that you want to do. It's over R1 million. So it's out of that price range that you were initially looking for, but it does fall within that category of Airbnb and those kinds of things that you want to do. So if you pick up your phone and you start phoning those people on your phone that's listed on your database, and you start calling them and say, listen, I'm looking to do this thing. I'm finding the deals. If you co-invest with me in a company that we register, then they get a share in the business. So that's one way, friends and family. Then another way that you can raise money is vendor finance. Now, a lot of people ask, it sounds so complicated. What is this thing called vendor finance? Effectively, vendor finance is when you use the seller's money to finance your purchase, which sounds insane. I mean, why would a seller pay you to buy a property from them? But it's possible in this game. What you do is you go to a seller and you say to them, look, I've got this ability to convert opportunities. And I've learned all these things from the EDPF program. And what I want to do with your property is to take the property and convert it into an Airbnb type scenario. Over a period of time, I'm going to pay you back. I'm going to pay you, number one, a rental, which will be the normal rental and what they call an occupational rental. So I will occupy the property, and I will rent the property from you for, say, 20,000 Rand a month, whatever the number is. Then take that property, and then you go and rent it out to other people on an Airbnb system. Now, on Airbnb, you can make a lot more money than if you're renting it out to an individual or a family. So then the profit you make off the Airbnb, that's your profit. But then you take that profit and you then actually put that back in again, and you continue to pay the owner, the landlord of the property, the owner of the property. And over a period of, say, 5 years, you can then pay back the entire amount of money that you then owe the seller, because he has now sold it to you on almost like a lease agreement type. When you buy a car, when you buy a vehicle, you finance the vehicle over 5 years and you pay the bank over that period of time. You can do the same with property. And they register in the deeds office against the title deed the fact that you have now purchased the property on this basis, and that over the 5-year period, you would then pay the owner or the seller the full amount. So instead of going to the bank for the money, you're saying to the seller, I'm not going to pay the bank, I'll pay you. And you actually use this property to generate the income in order to pay it back.
Yes, but that's obviously subject to to the reasons for the seller wanting to put the property on the market, you know.
Okay.
So it's obviously if they want the cash front, if they need the lump sum. But that sounds pretty good, because I think the property that I saw is quite new, and I've already spoken to an agent. Of course, it's in the Karoo, so I can't just get there like this afternoon to go and view. But it doesn't sound like there's a rush for the sale, and that might be a worthwhile conversation to have. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. So okay, so that's another way. Then there's things like venture capital funding, very expensive. I would normally go to venture capitalists very last, because they normally would want a big stake in the business. They would want immediate cash flow, and they want high returns and long-term growth. So I would normally go to venture capitalists last. Basically, what a venture capitalist does is they invest other people's money into investment opportunities, property and business, and all sorts of opportunities that are in the marketplace. And then you get angel funders, that rich uncle or that rich friend of yours that believes in you, not in what you're doing. They believe in you, and they say, you know what, I love Jarrad, and I want to spend some money with him that he's going to hopefully make more money for me as an investor. That's the kind of person that you go to when you know that, first of all, they have patient money. What I mean by patient money is that they don't need to get returns immediately. They will wait 5, 6, 7, 10 years for the returns to come. And number two, they believe in you as the jockey for their investment. So we need to be, those are very circumspect. We need to be very circumspect in terms of those types of investments, because those are very specific type of people, wealthy people who have money that they want to spend, but they will only spend it with people that they trust and believe in. So those are what they call angel investors.
I want to ask you, I mean, can an angel investor also be someone who's just willing to stand surety?
Absolutely. So that was the next thing that I was going to suggest, is that if you, for example, cannot get a bond because you don't have a capital base, you don't have a salary, or etc., but you've got somebody that's willing to stand surety for you, you can then get a bond with somebody else standing surety, and then you still the one that pays the bond, but somebody else is standing surety, because the bank doesn't accept your surety, as an example. So yes, absolutely. That's not necessarily called angel investment. That's just suretyship by another person for you to be able to then purchase your property. But it's similar to an angel investor, except that this person isn't actually putting cash in. This person is putting their name on the line so that they can stand surety for you.
They will jump in to do so.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then there are other things that you can do. You can bring equity partners on board where they're not putting in money, but they're putting in their time. So let's say, for example, you want to buy that property, but there's a bit of a development that needs to happen, okay, in order to get it to the state that you require it to be to rent out. So let's say you buy it for 1.2 million and you need to spend another 400,000 Rand to get it to that point, and the returns are good after you've done the renovations. You can then bring architects, quantity surveyors, town planners, accountants, lawyers, construction people, all in on an equity basis, where they don't charge you for the work they do. That 400,000 Rand then becomes their investment into the deal. So you raise the money for the purchase of the property, but they bring all the value to grow it from 1.2 to 1.6. And then they then get, for that 400,000 Rands worth of spend, they get an equity stake in the business, and they therefore then get profits once the thing starts making a profit. So you can use other people's time, energy, and resources in order to also invest into the property without you having to spend money. So they may have to spend some money or their time, but they get an equity stake in the business as opposed to cash. So at the end of the day, these are all different ways that you can utilize to use other people's money. But your best bet is your database on your phone. That is your best, this is your best friend right here. Because the people that are in this database of yours, are people who trust you, who believe in you. And if you tell them that you are on this program and you're busy building a property portfolio, you've already started, then they are more likely to be partnering with you. And it doesn't have to be a big amount of money. It doesn't have to be R1 million. If you get 100 people that put in 10,000 Rand, that's $1 million right there. If you get 10 people with 100,000 Rand, that's $1 million right there. So you can split it up into a group of people. You can start a stokvel where every month, everybody puts in 1,000 Rand or 5,000 Rand or whatever the case may be. And over a period of a year or two, you've raised enough money to buy a property. You can register a cooperative. And even with cooperatives is even better because there are grants that you can get when you register a cooperative. I think the grant is all the way up to 300,000 Rand that you can get from government when you register a cooperative. So there are lots of different ways that you can raise money.
Definitely, I'd love to chat to you about that.
Okay, fantastic. We'll definitely talk about that separately. Yes,
because I'm also looking at getting a property where my wife and I work together with social responsibility. We do a lot of, she's a psychologist. I use my sort of skills I've developed in the arts to help people build their confidence. And we'd love to get, even if it's a small space, and through the cooperative, and maybe be able to get some funding to do some community work, but to have it stationed somewhere, with its own buildings, or its own little property.
Yeah,
so I'm gonna chat to you about.
Okay, that's fantastic. So I mean, there's your third one already that we're talking about. So you already got one that you're waiting for transfer. The second one you're already working on, and now hopefully going to raise some money using other people's money. And then the third one, possibly doing a cooperative with your groups and buy a third property before this 50-day challenge is over. Who knows? The sky is the limit.
Yeah, listen, because now that the bug has bitten me, I think I'm definitely keen to jump in. I think it was always that initial buy that scares you, but once you're in the process and you realize there are avenues and ways to do it, you actually realize that the possibilities are endless, and that there's an ocean of properties out there that with the right thinking can actually have a...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, absolutely. So
to move from one table, they're asking me to shift. Is it okay?
Okay. Now I think this is it for now. Let's end the session here, and we'll catch up again tomorrow where we talk about some other opportunities, and maybe we'll talk again. And we're also going to talk to Maya about the transfer process. So guys, thank you very much for joining us today. We will see you again tomorrow. Thank you, Jarrad, for this time. This is the Enterprise Development Property Fund 50-day property challenge with private property, and Jarrad Ricketts and Matt Al saying goodbye for now. We'll see you all tomorrow.